Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Maria Fontana Show. Today, I have an amazing guest, someone who is a dear friend of mine, Tara Antler. And I want you to know she's also a mentor of mine. I have worked with her on some spiritual energy work, and she's a game changer. So, welcome, Tara. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's always such a joy to connect with you. You're radiant and glowing as ever. So it's so great. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to have you here. So I want to talk about there's so many changes going on. Before Tara and I, before we went live, we were just chit-chatting about like our kids and what's going on in our life, and that we both sense that there's all these energy shifts. So Tara, tell everyone a little bit about what you do, who you are, the magic you bring to this world, and just start sharing your good stuff, girlfriend.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been an intuitive healer, soul coach, spiritual teacher, and mentor for 22 years. I just celebrated this past August. And the energies always go through these high moments, low moments in between, and then it kind of recycles again.
Mm.
And one of the things that we've seen over the years is that there
Mhm.
are these patterns. It's like a revolving door where humanity will go through these massive expansion experiences.
Mhm.
And then we set big intentions, big goals, big dreams. We expand, we become the next big version of ourselves. And then we have to integrate. So that's where it feels almost like a bit of a normalization or a plateau. And then all of a sudden, people will hit this wall or they'll hit this stumbling block, or I call it the ick and the stick. Sandpaper
Mm.
moments start coming up. And that's where we're asked to grow again. But it's in those sandpaper moments when it's ick and stick, where it feels tight, it feels contractive. That's where a lot of times it leaves people feeling really confused as to what the heck is going on. I just set these big goals and intentions. Why do I feel this pullback? Why do I feel this stumbling block? What the heck just happened? And it's the very moment that people need to actually keep growing forward and up. But a lot of times people will fall back. And I've been saying this a lot lately. This is not the time to fall back. We have to keep falling forward. Because when we fall forward, that's when we grow, that's when we learn. When we fall back, we revert back into old cycles and patterns. And
Mm.
that's one thing that I've seen over, especially 22 years in practice. I've worked with well over 14,000 clients one to one now. And in an intuitive healing setting, I started out as a holistic healthcare practitioner. So for me, after university, I studied health sciences. And then I went to become a holistic healthcare practitioner where I studied aromatherapy, reflexology, lymphatic drainage massage,
Mm.
herbology, iridology, like all of the most beautiful alternative and complementary modalities, energy healing, chakras. And that was my favorite. I mean, I love all of them. And I still to this day, my kids get the best of me when it comes to this sort of work now because they get massages regularly. I massage their little feet and massage their heads. I'm always coming up with some sort of aromatherapy concoction for them, right? And but the interesting thing was in my career over 22 years, there's been so many twists and turns and changes, always flowing and following with what creator was asking of me though. And
Mm.
so I think this is important for people to realize is that in any purpose, soul work, you will have twists and turns. You will have an evolution within yourself and your business.
Mm.
And the most important thing is to recognize when there are cycles and patterns, when to break free from them, when to ground in, and then when to grow because you've outgrown yourself. And that
Mm.
kept happening for me. I was outgrowing myself very quickly because the moment I got certified in Reiki, Creator had me lined up with clients. I think it was the very next weekend. I certified in Reiki. That was the very first certification I could get. And it was easy and it was awesome. It was fun. And the very next week, I had clients already ready for me. And so Creator had me on a very fast moving path because I needed to move through all these different barriers,
Mhm.
cycles, repeat patterns, and to keep me on my toes and keep growing, which I'm really grateful
Mm.
for. And yeah, there's so much more I could say, but I'll just take a little pause there.
You are just, you just resonate with me because I know when we've worked together, I personally have been on the fast track too. And sometimes we're made wrong for that. But I learned from you that it is part of becoming you, the being that you are, and everyone's journey is different. So let's talk about, I know you are, and you've helped me with this leadership. Like, what is leadership? what should people be really focusing on if they want to be good leaders? Because sometimes people will say to me, "Yeah, Maria, but I really I work myself. I'm a solopreneur. I have a small boutique business. I mean, that's the world I come, smaller boutique businesses." And I say, "Yeah, but I have to tell you, the leadership part changed my life because you have to be able to lead." So I want you to talk to that. Tell us about leadership for yourself, for your team, in all the avenues you know works the best.
100%. I think leadership, if anybody is working with clients, you need to become a leader if you haven't yet claimed that for yourself. In fact, I think most people who are already working with other people already are a leader. They just haven't claimed it. It's really that identity piece where you're like, I resonate with that, but I don't really see myself as a leader because what is it that I'm really leading people? If you
Mm,
work with people, you are a leader because there are people watching what you're doing. They're watching what you're up to. They're watching what you're creating. They're listening to every word. They're watching what you're doing and you're inspiring them. And I
mm,
think, especially in the beauty industry and the salon, I remember even when I was in the spa industry. And so we
mhm,
were doing more body work and beautiful spa treatments and the body wraps and the exfoliation and the hair and scalp massages. And even in that, if somebody said, I just want the honey, the oat, the almond body wrap with the extra hair and scalp massage, I still showed up with all of me,
mm,
not just the parts of me that was trained to do the body work. I showed up with all of me. And I do believe that most people, if you are inclined to work with other people or you want to make a difference in someone's world, their life, their beauty, their health, their something, there's an inner, what I would call healer within you
mhm,
that wants to make a difference, that wants to take something and make it something else. You want to beautify it. You want to expand it. You want to transform it. You want it to become the most radiant expression somehow, some way. And so your inner leadership is everything. So I would say the very first thing is you need to show up as your full self no matter what, because we all have these gifts. We all have these qualities to want to help, to serve, to make a difference. Show up as your full self, whether it's something that you picked up along the way that you learned as a skill, whether it's just a quality and a state of being. You know, one thing that I remember, there's a really dear friend of mine. We were together in grade 3, I think was when we first met.
mhm,
And fast forward to today, he's worked with some of the most amazing musicians and comedians. He's worked for MTV, CTV,
mhm,
like the Tonight Show, like
mhm,
incredible things that he's done. And one thing that he always echoes back to me, he said to me that even in grade 3, he said, you were a leader from all the way back then. I'm like, I was 11, like 10. I don't even know 9. Like, how young are you in that time period, right? And he said, no, but you had that quality because he said, you just kept showing up as you, no matter
mhm,
what. And I think that you have certain qualities that are embedded within you that are a part of your soul's experience that you chose from a higher perspective to come in with, whether that was being really kind to people. Maybe you were a very strong person. Maybe you did lead away. Maybe you didn't follow the crowd. Maybe you just knew what to say at the right time. Maybe you knew how to give a hug when somebody needed a hug. Maybe you're
mm.
the person where you're standing in the grocery store and then the person just tells you everything of their whole life story and you just happen to know the right thing to say at that moment. There's something within all of us that we
Yeah.
have these, I would call them like super gifts that are given to us that we've chosen on a soul level that are a part of us. And when
Mm.
you show up as your full self, you're leading yourself in light. That's what I call it, is light
Yep.
infused leadership.
Yep.
You're bringing the light in, you're bringing your full self in, you're bringing your soul self in, and you get to show up as your full self. And when you do, we don't know in a moment what somebody needs until you're in that moment. And if you're in your full self, you will literally be able to pull down and pull
Mhm.
out of you whatever it is that that person needs without having to overthink it
Yep.
or think to yourself, well, I'm not really a healer or I'm not really a coach, but maybe you are.
Yeah.
Maybe it's so innate within you. And
Yeah.
that person just opened up and said, hey, I need this. And you just happen to know the answer.
Hmm.
That's you showing up as your full self. So for
Yeah.
me, leadership, that's like a core quality is you showing up as your full self no matter what, because I believe each of us are so exceptionally awesome that we don't just have one gift. We wouldn't come in with just one gift. We come in
Yeah.
with a full palette,
Yeah.
a full color expression. And when you show up as your full self and someone is opening up, you're able to really say, here's a nugget, here's a gem, here's a seed, here's a something. And that person walks away feeling incredible. This is what I would do in the spa industry. They
Yeah.
come in and they get their spa treatment, and I'd be doing Reiki, and I
Yep.
would be having deep conversations, and their past lives would be showing up, and their relatives who had passed away would be showing up.
Hmm.
One woman who she asked for one of those body wraps and I
Hmm.
never tightly wrapped anybody, okay, but she wanted like the cocoon wrap.
Hmm.
I said, okay. And I had this feeling, I was like, I don't know if that's really what she needs, but she's
Your
asking for that. It's
intuition.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so we get in and she's wrapped lightly. Within about 2 minutes, she starts having a panic attack. And all of
Mm.
a sudden, and thankfully, it was me that was standing there, not some other practitioner who was afraid to show up in their full gifts. I knew exactly what to do because all of a sudden she was having this panic attack. She goes, I feel like I'm suffocating. I feel like I can't breathe. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's going on. I said, it's okay. I said, just take a deep breath. It's okay. I said, I'm just going to gently unwrap you. You're okay. Focus, listen to me, hear me, breathe. And I was walking her through a guided
Mm.
visualization and meditative process focused on her breath. And as we both dropped in without panicking and freaking out, like I did something wrong as a practitioner or
Hmm.
there was
Hmm.
something off with her as a client, I right away just tapped into her. And this past life revealed itself of her being suffocated. And that was one of the ways that she had died. So
Oh,
I said,
wow.
and I said, I said, how are you feeling right now? And she had voiced the exact thing that I was seeing in my mind's eye. And I said, I don't know if you believe in past lives. So I had to like keep stretching and stepping out of my comfort zone because here I am in the spa industry. This
Yep.
was,
Yep.
the early 2000s.
Hmm.
So this wasn't normal conversation like today.
Yes, I know.
And right. And I said to her, I don't know if you believe in past lives. I said, but this is what I'm seeing. And if you're open, we can clear this right now. And she's like, oh my gosh, please. She's like, I don't ever want to experience this again. And I just opened up. I didn't know what to do in that moment. I just showed up fully and allowed the energy and light to come through. And it just started moving. And all this energy started opening up. And it was literally like, mommy bandages were
Hmm.
unraveling off of her spirit and off of her energy. And I
Beautiful.
watched her in that moment expand and open. And she goes, oh my God, I feel free for the first time in my life.
I love that
So much transformation for her happened after that.
so
Like
much.
these are the things that can reveal themselves to us if you show up as your full self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you helped me. I mean, I will share openly on this podcast that I kept my intuition hidden in the business world for a long time. But while I was behind the chair, when I was physically doing hair and with clients, I would just get downloads. Like I would just know shit and I didn't know how I knew. So I did start to share, and I do have the gift of just healing with my hands and the energy. Like it's not something I was taught, it's just something that I say I do this. It just comes right through me. And I started to just do it, and people started to feel it. And that was all part of how my brick and mortar practice grew because my brick and mortar practice was organic and holistic. So it was a very specific niche, and I still have that practice. But you helped me really grow and step into owning that intuition, even in my consulting space. Because for many years, I had a coach who was wonderful, but they were all business. And she would say, it's going to discredit you. Be careful what you say. And it was her own limiting mindset. She didn't mean anything by it, but that was part of my lesson. So in us breaking through and working with you, I just had a shift that shifted me. And I thought, this is my gift because again, as you know, when I'm working with clients in the consulting space, I'll be coaching with them like this, and all of a sudden I just get a download, and I'm like, "Would you like me to share what's coming in?" And it's like a radio frequency, and that is part of my magic, and I love that. What would you say would be a tangible thing that people could do, one or two things that they could take away from this podcast that they could actually do to tap in more to their true authentic self and release that fear of being themselves?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I just want to echo something to you too, that, you are such an like powerful, angelic, beautiful being. And so to see and hear you be able to allow that through, what a gift for your clients. What a gift for them to be able to experience that too, because that's the truth coming down. And I think
It-
sometimes like we get a little bogged down by, I call them like the capital T truth. And then there's like the little t, which we think is truth, but it's really based off of our identity and our past self.
Mhm.
And people get confused about that all the time. So I would say the very first thing to do would be sit with yourself and ask, do I show up as my full self? In each moment, when I'm in the grocery store, if you have kids, when I'm with my kids, when I'm with my clients, when I'm doing my taxes, like, do I show up as my full self in all these different ways? Because there's things that we do that we love, and there's things that we do that we're like, oh my gosh, right? Like the taxes.
Mhm.
But even when I do taxes, I'm like, I can show up as my full self or my little self. And if I show up as my little self, the little T self, I know it's filled with ego, it's filled with my identity, it's filled with maybe some limitation. And because we're in constant co-creation mode,
Mm.
meaning everything that you hold, everything that you focus on, everything that you're energetically amping up through your emotions, through your thoughts, through your focus, you're setting in motion something. So that something is either a reality that you're going to love and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I was thinking that and feeling that because this I love. I love this."
Mm.
Or you're like, like I don't know if I really like that so much. And the little self is always a mixed bag because
Mhm.
sometimes you get the things that you want and sometimes not. Whereas your capital T truth, your ultimate truth is your full self. So I would start
Mm.
with that question, contemplate, do I show up as my full self? And then I would ask myself, and if I hear no, then I would start to ask, what does my full self feel like? What does my full self look like? Whenever I think of my full self, I have this image in my mind's eye of this goddess. Like she is just like, think back to the Egyptian, Grecian era where, it's the flowing,
Ooh.
beautiful gowns, the long hair, the gold, like she's there and she's owning her space. She's
Mhm.
standing fully in her power. She's standing fully in a space of compassion. She's standing fully in a space of feeling so connected. And when I reclaim that, when I remember that over and over and over again, something happens, right? My every cell in my body goes, and
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then there's no question. So I
Yes.
think we all have this very full version of ourselves, but we're not tapping into it as often as we could be. So ask yourself, dream into that a little bit, contemplate that. What would this full version of me feel like, look like, be like? How would she show up? What are some of the gifts? What are some of the qualities? What are the ways that are reflected back to me? Like when you're in your full self, you're emanating such a powerful signal, like you were talking about radio signals. You're
Yeah.
emanating such a powerful signal out to the whole field, the world around you, and it will reflect to you 100% you. And if it reflects back to you and people are like, oh my gosh, you're glowing, that's your full self. If
Yeah.
people reflect back to you, oh my gosh, that was the greatest, whatever the experience is you're holding for people, that's your full self. If people reflect back to you, oh my gosh, you are so compassionate, you are so loving, you're such a good listener, that's the truth of you being reflected back to you because you've been standing in it, even if it's for a moment. And the more you hold that and you remember that, you become that more and more and more and more. And it's almost like all the doubts, they just fade. The inconsistencies, they fade. The lack of confidence, it fades. The question that we have of ourselves, it pops up, but it fades. It doesn't stick. It doesn't stay.
Mhm.
So those would be two like things that I would do because I do those regularly.
And I do too. So I'll make you guys laugh. Being that you shared your how you see yourself, I'm going to share how I see myself. I see myself as an angelic warrior. Like I'm an angel because I'm a big woman. I'm pretty tall. So I see myself this big, really powerful, dressed in like a warrior angel getup, and I'm just like helping everyone, shooting light out at everyone. What I want to share is that I feel through your work and through really stepping up as your authentic self, and as you're saying, that you become a better communicator. Hence, if you do have a team, which is something I was never great at, again, full transparency, I own my shit. I was a people pleaser. So I was so afraid of being my authentic self and sharing what I need and being a good leader in the workspace. Okay. I'll say in as a business owner. But as I worked on the things that you're sharing, doing the exercises and the beautiful formulas that you teach, it helps you show up and communicate better, right? You find that correctly. I mean, I found that to be like, wow, I can actually speak clearly and not feel like, oh, like afraid of what I'm
Yep.
saying.
100%. I found that having a team, and it was interesting because even early on, I just found myself in roles where I always had a team, whether
Mm,
I asked for it or not. I would just always find myself in it. And I remember the first time I had a team, I was hired as a spa consultant. And I went in and we created the programs and I hired the team and I trained them all to become like exceptional practitioners.
mhm.
And I thought that was going to be it. Like, I did my job. Like, that's good. I'm good. I'm good. Right. And then they said, wait a second, we don't have anybody to run this now. Can you step up as spa director? And I was like, well, my ego loved that. I was like, woo! I'm 27. I am a spa director. Like, what a fabulous feeling. Right. Oh my gosh. What came from that? Of being the director and a manager to all these people. And I had a team of 12. So I went from solopreneur to team of 12 like that overnight. And it was one of the most challenging and beautiful experiences at the same time because I realized how quickly people lost their self leadership in
Mhm.
the presence of a very strong leader.
Yes.
And so I realized, I was like, okay, how do I help these people? Because it's like they all just stop thinking for themselves. I'm like, how
Mhm.
did this happen? When I was like, they're trained, like I was training them and I was more like a mentor and I was more like a peer.
Mhm.
They thought for themselves, they could
Mhm.
function. Then all
Mhm.
of a sudden I stepped into spa director and it was almost like there was this hierarchy energy that got placed in all of our minds somehow.
Mhm.
And so that was a really interesting experience for me. And it was one that I learned a lot from because fast forward to today when we now have our own team for our company and our business, my husband and I, and it's such a different experience. And I draw from that 27-year young version of me to the 46-year young version of me now. I draw from that experience so much because I realized I need to walk in a way that I see them as powerfully as they see me. I
Mhm.
need to see myself in a state of power. They need to know themselves in a state of power. No one is less than, no one's greater than, no one's less than. That we truly are equals. When I see them as in their gifts, they have such incredible gifts. They have so much to bring to the table. They feel elevated. I feel elevated, and they're able to reciprocate that. So there's no working under me.
Mhm.
It's really, we're here as this collective team that we're here collaborating for the greater consciousness and the greater good of the whole.
Mm.
And when we
Yeah.
show up that way as leaders, it changes things because then I don't have that happening now in our company,
Yeah.
whereas when I was younger, I didn't know any better, right? I thought, okay, leadership, I have to lead these people, not realizing what leadership actually meant was me being able to, first and foremost, always lead myself, do the personal development, do the spiritual work,
Yeah.
continue to grow as I need to. When I hit those blocks, grow through them. And then to be able to continue to see everyone as equal, everyone in their gifts, everyone in a space of power, which really allows everyone else to elevate together. And it's such a different experience now. Our communication is so beautiful because we're all coming from a very intuitive place too. Because if I see the
Love
gifts
that.
in you, they see the gifts in me,
Mhm.
we're able to really connect in a very wholehearted way, even if they have needs that need to get met. And they're like, hey, I really would love, like, I'm putting in this extra work. Can we talk about a possible increase in my hourly? And I'm open to have that conversation and I can see the value in it.
Yes.
Whereas, younger me, I don't know if it would have been the same type of
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, I think in the beauty spa wellness industry, I think it's really important to work on our inner game. I always say that. So Tara, before we wrap up, share with the community What are you working on right now? I know I'm involved. I'm going to be joining you in some really juicy things that you're doing right now. And a lot of people always ask me, they're like, Maria, you're always in a good mood. You're always smiling. You've got such good energy. But I work on my stuff. And like I said, Tara's one of the people that I really closely admire and really respect her work. So I highly recommend, guys, that let's hear what Tara's got to offer right now, what she's got going on, and check it out. So let's hear what you got going on right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. We always have multiple creative things going on at one time. And right now, we're really focused on our inner game. So, that inner leadership, the inner ability to thrive, to bust through some of our limitations, the paradigms, the things that keep us stuck in those loops and those patterns. And what I've been getting a lot lately is, creation downloads. The whole world has been stuck in these loops, these cycles.
Yep.
And for years, creators have been showing me spirals. And they said, when you can guide people to step out of the loops and out of the cycles and into the spiral is forever evolving and expanding. You become better and better and better. You grow, you become more and more abundant.
Mhm.
This is the bulk of the work that we're doing in all of our programs, whether it's our upcoming meditation certification for leaders. We also have our Thrive program, and that is leading people through exactly what we're talking about
Ooh.
to release those barriers, unravel a little bit, step out of the cycles that I think keep us stuck in a
Mhm.
bit of duality and polarity, and really free ourselves. So when we come up into this spiral, that is your natural evolution and growth. So those are the two biggest things. And we always have free things coming up. So if you want to pop over to either Facebook or Instagram, that's where we hang out, primarily on Facebook. But we always have amazing free and complimentary workshops happening too. So if you ever want to come check out anything, I know there's one coming up next week, but there's always something happening that's amazing and beautiful and empowering in our world.
I love that so much. We're going to drop everything in the show notes, either below this video or below the podcast, wherever it is that you're listening to Tara and I share this beautiful stuff. Guys, make sure you reach out, connect with Tara, follow her. If you want to be part of the community, work on your inner game. Tara, I love you. Thank you for
I
being
love
part of the
you.
podcast today, and thank you for sharing your brilliance.
Thank you so much, honey.